Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be making my predictions for the Premier League season 26-27. And as always, if you've already seen my League 1 and Championship predictions, as you can see, I've got the tier list here in front of me. We're going to be going, actually this time from 20th up to 1st in my predictions. Yeah, and remember guys, I don't really know an awful lot about, the future. I can't tell the future, so if you get upset, don't worry, I'm more than likely going to be wrong come May. But without further ado, let's begin. And unfortunately, someone has to come bottom. And honestly, I've been half impressed by some of the signings they brought in. But in 20th place, I've gone with Hull City. I've gone for Hull in 20th place. I predicted them to just survive in the Championship last season. And look at that, Sergei Djurkovic has done an excellent job with them to make playoffs and get promoted. And when I made my playoff predictions, final prediction video, I did have Hull winning 1-0 against Middlesbrough, which did come true, but ultimately I do think this season is going to be a bit of a struggle for Hull City. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a similar story for 19th place Ipswich Town. I've been very impressed with a few of the players they brought in. You've got Diop from Fulham, and then you've got Jack Clark as well. The list goes on and on. They've been really busy this summer transfer window. They have lost Sammy Smodics to Derby County, which I am a bit, I have a couple of reservations on. But ultimately, I think, as impressive as they have been, and of course they have lost their manager Kieran McKenna as well, they've brought in Gary O'Neill, who is experienced at this level, but I don't really rate him too highly as a manager in the Premier League, so I do have them going down. And then making up my final relegation spot, and this one really was a toss-up. I just think the Premier League experience might prevail here. I've got Coventry City. Yeah, I know it's boring, and I hate to put the 3 promoted sides going straight back down, but ultimately, I just see it. I see Coventry going down alongside the other 2, and, they absolutely smashed the Championship to pieces last season, which I'll admit, I had them in the playoffs, but they went 1 step further than that, 2 steps further than that, and got automatic promotion and won the title, which is very well done from Frank Lampard there. But this year, I have them the most likely of the promoted 3 sides to go and stay up, but I think it's just going to be a stretch too far this season. The club I have in 17th place and just surviving by the skin of their teeth, because I think it will be that close, is Fulham. And yeah, Fulham have that Premier League experience, which is what I said. I think they will just survive, although, it's all real change at Fulham this season. Marco Silva's gone out the door. They brought in Alvaro Arbiola, a former Real Madrid boss, which could well be a good pickup, but they've lost Raul Jimenez back to Wolves, and they've lost Harry Wilson to Leeds as well, so a lot of change this season. They brought in Shea Charles from my side, Southampton, but yeah, ultimately I do think that Fulham will just survive, but I think it will be very close. It will probably come down to the final day this season. Then next up in 16th place, and once again just surviving, I think. And again, it's going to be a bit of a surprise, a fairly Premier League regular. I think with a bit of a drop-off this year is Crystal Palace. Of course, Oliver Glasner going out the door. They have held on to Jean-Philippe Mateta, which I think is a good hold on. I think Brennan Johnson might have gone to Everton. So he's out the door. Still got Jorgen Strand Larsen as well. I mean, Maxime Lacroix is out the door to Chelsea. Ultimately, I mean, Born Pierce Sage as well. I wonder if I think it will be a fairly comfortable. I think there might be a slight gap between Palace and Fulham here, but ultimately I do have Palace staying up in 16th place, and then in 15th place. And talking of like real changes, well, this one has to be announced. I can see yet a further drop off for Newcastle this season. I can't believe I'm putting them as low as 15th in this prediction video, but ultimately, I mean, look at all the players that have gone out the door this summer. Well, first of all, not least, Eddie Howe is out the door. Brought in Matej Jasel. I wonder if he's going to be good, from the Saudi Pro League and RB Salzburg in the past. And then, they've lost Sandro Tonali to Spurs, Bruno Guimaraes recently to Arsenal, Anthony Gordon to Barcelona, I think happened at the start of the summer. There are rumours about like Nick Voltemade going out the door. Joe Linton could be going, Lewis Hall could be going. They've brought in few players, but I mean, I think the oldest players they brought in are only 20 years old, which is actually 1 year younger than me now. But I do think that, I think it could be worrying times. I think there'll be enough quality still in the squad to survive, but I think it could be a rocky season for the Magpies here. And of course, Amanda Staveley is interested in buying out West Ham now as well. So a lot of change at Newcastle, but change can be good, and I think they will survive. I just look at the quality they have below them, and I think they've got enough quality to make 15th place. And then in 14th place, I've got their rivals. I've got the Black Cats. I've got Sunderland coming 14th. A very impressive year last year. I think they finished 7th, but this time around they've got Europe, and they, I know the tier list, it says relegation battle here. I think Newcastle upwards will be sort of mid-table surviving, and relatively safe, fairly early in the season. But, yeah, I mean, Sunderland, they have done well to keep hold of Granit Xhaka, because Chelsea were sniffing around him at the start of the window. And then, I mean, I don't really know a lot of the players they brought in. I know they've brought in Thomas Meunier, but ultimately, I think they'll finish just above their rivals, maybe virtue of the Tyne Wear and Wear Tyne derbies. They tend to keep beating Newcastle at. So I think Sunderland will finish just above Newcastle here, but I think Europe could hamper them this season, and I've got them with a slight quite a slight regression down to 14th place this season. And then in 13th place, and this is a fairly big improvement on the relegation battle last year, I've got Leeds United in 13th place. I think Daniel Farke did really well towards the second half of last season. I think around New Year time he changed the formation and it started to work. They started to gel and get results over the line. quite frequently, and I think if he can do that for a whole season, I think it'll be a bit up and down, but ultimately I do see them finishing mid-table this season. I think, Leeds will have more than enough quality. I mean, here's the thing, as I said earlier, they brought in Harry Wilson from Fulham. They've also brought in James Trafford, and I rate him highly as a goalkeeper. I think he's England's next number one. I mean, they have lost Pascal Struijk to Brighton, but ultimately I think it's just an upward trajectory here for Leeds this season, and I think it will be mid-table, 13th place, and a very good improvement. And in 12th place, and this one you could have a bit higher, I've got Nottingham Forest. Now, no European distractions this season. Of course, they have brought in Oliver Glasner as the manager. They have lost Elliot Anderson to Manchester City. But I think, as I say, without that European distraction, I think few other sides in Europe might just, finish a bit lower. The likes of Sunderland might actually be it in my list. But I can see a steady Eddie mid-table finish for Nottingham Forest this season. But ultimately, I think it will be mid-table. No European football, but I think it will be a slight rise up the table again for Forest, and nowhere near 16th place from last season. And then the final team I have missing out on the top half, in 11th place, I've got Bournemouth. And, well, this is another tricky one. I mean, of course, Andoni Iraola's gone out the door to Liverpool. Brought in Marco Rose. I think, and they've got European distraction as well. I think it could be a slight drop down the table this season. But ultimately, I do think it'll be more than enough to make mid-table. And I do think that, I think Marco Rose, I think he might navigate them fairly far in Europe, but ultimately I do think that, it's going to be a mid-table finish for them. Then we go into the top half. I'll have to have a drink. And this may be one of the more stupid ones, considering how underwhelming they were last season. But in 10th place, I've got Everton. And yeah, I don't really know why I'm doing this. I tell you what, the bottom and the top were fairly easy-ish to predict. It's this middle of the table which you could really, and I have been really, mixing these sides around, but ultimately I've landed on the Toffees, finishing 10th. I mean, who have they brought in? They brought in Tyreek George from Chelsea, Hayden Hackney from Middlesbrough, I think Borough's top scorer from last season. I think that's a good pickup. Christian Norgard from Arsenal. But ultimately, I do think, the thing is, I don't see any real progression under David Moyes. I think it could well be a European scrap maybe very early in the season, and then they'll tail off, and maybe in the final third of the season start to pick up form again. Ultimately, I do have Everton slap bang in the middle, really in 10th place. And then in 9th place this season, I've got Brentford. I think, they're always one side I tend to be kind of slightly underestimating on what they do. They always seem to be pushing for Europe. And I remember last year, I think I had them 16th place. But Keith Andrews did very well last season with them. And, I think they'll be pushing for Europe again. I think they'll just miss out to the 8 sides that we do have a bit lower down here. But I do think that, that I'm not 100% sure on some of their pickups. They brought in Callum Wilson from West Ham and Jadon Anthony from Burnley, 2 relegated sides from last season. They've also brought in, what's his name, Sangare. I think that's a good, he could be a good pickup. And then, of course, they've still got Igor Thiago, who I think really challenged for the Golden Boot. I think he's like 2nd or 3rd in that race last season. Ultimately, I think Brentford will just miss out on Europe. I think 9th place, but ultimately a very good season again for the Bees. And then we go to our top 8 and our Europe places. And our first Europa League place, in 8th place, I've got Brighton. So I say picking up Pascal Struijk from Leeds. Out the door goes Danny Welbeck to Chelsea, which is a bit of a worry. But ultimately, I do think that, Brighton, they always seem to, they're like Brentford, another side I tend to underestimate at the start of each season. And they always go on some form of European push under Fabian Hürzeler here. I think the squad is still decent. I mean, out goes John-Paul Van Hecke to Spurs as well. But I think Brighton will make Europa League this season. I think they will be distracted by some European competition, I think. But I think they will make Europa League in 8th place this season. I think they're going to have a very strong season again. And also joining Brighton in that Europa Conference League place, I've got Spurs in 7th place. Back-to-back 17th place finishes, so that's a 10 place progression up the table. I think I predicted something like that last year and it didn't come in, but I mean, surely, I've already listed some of the players they've brought in. Spurs, they brought in Martin Dubravka as a backup goalkeeper from Burnley. They've brought in John-Paul Van Hecke, Andy Robertson, Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandes, Marco Senesi. They've brought in a whole list of brilliant players, and surely that and some of the experience they've got, the likes of Xavi Simons, Richarlison, probably Mohamed Kudus coming back from injury. I think, I think that squad's got to push up the table again this season. And I've got them finishing in 7th place and Europa League football. And then in 6th place, and the final place missing out in the Champions League, I've got Aston Villa. I think Villa will be in 6th. I think Unai Emery, what a manager he is, but they've got it's Champions League football to contend with again this season. And I think they could go on a slight run, maybe quarterfinals, if they're lucky, in that. But I do think that will slightly hamper their league form. And I do have Villa missing out in the Champions League. I've got them 6th here. I think, they've brought in Alejandro Garnacho from Chelsea, Johan Manzambi as well. Out the door goes Yuri Tillemans to Man United. Heard a rumour about Leon Bailey maybe joining Hull, but I don't think that's really happened yet, so they've got hold of him for now. And I do have Aston Villa making Europe once again under Unai Emery. Is 6th place and Europa League place for next season. And then we've got our top 5 here, and this was really tricky to, mix them out. But in 5th place, I've gone for Chelsea. They've brought in a ton of players, as I've already mentioned in the video. Xabi Alonso as well, former Invincible with Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. I just think Chelsea, they've brought in a lot of good players, and they can at times show up, but ultimately I'm not 100% convinced on their players just yet. They could, in a year or so, with the right signings, go on a title hunt, but I do have them 5th place. I've got Champions League, but yeah, I mean, they've lost Marc Cucurella to Real Madrid as well. He could be a big loss for them. Ultimately, I do have Chelsea making Champions League, but 5th place is the best I can see for them. Then in 4th place, I've gone for Manchester United. Yeah, they've got... It's an interesting one, because they played well under Michael Carrick towards the end of last season, when he was interim boss, but this year as actual boss, it is a wonder whether they will continue their good form from the end of the season, or if they will, you know, if they will slightly regress down the table again. I've got them in 4th place. I think they could, like Chelsea, maybe be in a title race next year with the right signings. They have brought in Cole Darlow from Leeds, Yuri Tillemans from Aston Villa, Andre Santos from Chelsea. You know, I think very steady, and you know, Brian Bremo is firing on all cylinders in pre-season friendlies, and I think, yeah, good things are to come under Michael Carrick and Man United. And then we've got our top 3, and well, I feel like this could be quite a few people's top 3, and this may be stupid, but under the uncertainties, I've got Manchester City in 3rd place. Now, it may be stupid not to have them in the top 2, but I know a lot of the squad's the same. They brought in Pierce Charles, Shea Charles' little brother goalkeeper, and then they've also brought in Elliot Anderson, Jeremy Munger, and they have held on to most of their squad. I know Bernardo Silva and Rodri, John Stones are out the door, but the main concern for me is Enzo Maresca coming in for Pep Guardiola. I think with the squad he has at his disposal, he could be 3rd or 2nd. It was a real toss-up. But ultimately, I do have them just missing out in 3rd place and just missing out in the top 2. Because in 2nd place, I have gone for Liverpool. Andoni Iraola comes in. Of course, they brought in Jeremy Jacket and Victor Munoz. But, you know, the big question for me is Bradley Barcola. They've been, I think, targeting him half the summer. I think, you know, they could well finish 2nd if they bring him in. Of course, Mohamed Salah is out the door this season, as in as Andy Robertson to Spurs. But, you know, I do highly rate Iraola as a manager, and I think he could push Arsenal close to the title. But ultimately, I think they'll just miss out in 2nd place. And then winning the league, as you know, I've got the Gunners. I've got Arsenal to win the league again. Repeat the trick from last season. I think, you know, the Bruno Guimaraes, that's pretty much the only notable signing. I mean, they've lost Christian Norgard and Leandro Trossard out the door. But I think as a whole, they've maintained their title-winning squad. I think that mentality will make Arsenal progress once again to win the league. I've got Arsenal, Mikel Arteta winning his 2nd consecutive Premier League title, and yeah, that'll be one title closer to Man United and Liverpool in top-tier division titles. And there you have it, guys, all my 1st to 20th, or 20th to 1st, if you will, Premier League predictions for the 26-27 season. I'd love to know your predictions in the comments down below.